Americans. But in the case of the Olmec, where they made their most tremendous impact, the evidence is that it was a peaceful affair, that the Olmec incorporated them into their priest caste. They found the skeletons of Africans, 13.5% among the ruling class in America in that period, that pre-Christian period, where Zinski, the Polish skull expert, showed that it was a high percentage, and even 200 years later, it was only low, like 4.5%, but not among the common people, among the ruling class. They were incorporated.
In this return voyage process that you described using these currents, were any Native Americans brought back to the African continent?
Yes, we have evidence of a Native American village in North Africa. We have evidence of an accident occurring the other way in the circular current. This is, of course, late pre-Columbian, before Columbus, but just about 50 years before Columbus. We also have something which has been checked out of something around 62 BC, where 7 American Indians seem to have been shipwrecked off the coast of Europe, and they were picked up by the Germans, the Suavians, and they were taken to the Romans and given as a gift the Quintus Metellus cellar. And we have, they came in an osier boat Mason's osier. But they also found the American pineapple in the ruins of Pompeii, which could have been brought in by those shipwrecks.
Okay, let's stop here, Professor Van Sertima. Let's take another break, and then we'll continue with a collective look at African history right after this. Frustrated because I thought we were going to be giving ourselves a lot of time, but 2 hours is nothing. We haven't covered a lot of ground. Let's go one by one to some areas that you still feel are hanging by the individual segments that we've covered. Professor Clarke?
I'd like to go back to that first European presence in Africa and what happened to it. The European, especially the Roman, tax collection and exploitation forced the Africans, part of the Asians too, to pull from their history and their folklore and a new religion. This was the former religion that the Europeans would distort later on and called Christianity. And as this religion got underway, the Romans did not take it too seriously. They didn't expect much to come out of it, and after a while they began to entertain themselves on Saturday evenings by killing Christians, and that the Romans literally killed Christians for almost 150 years before strategically and for political reasons they adapted this religion. And because it had become very popular among the Europeans of that day. But something else had happened, because the European has a paranoia about being ruled by other people. When he adopted the religion, then the European declared war on the African Christians for control of the church. Now the fight was for control, and when they formalized it at the conference at Nicaea, about 325 A.D., when they formalized the religion, when that degenerate Constantine adopted the religion and made it the official religion of the Roman Empire, he did this for political reasons, and it was been for political reasons ever since then.
Why you call him a degenerate?
Because he was a degenerate, really. The man was unspeakable, degenerate. With naked women hanging around the court and, fornicating all over the place, and then he switching from one to the other until these people called the Essens sold him on this religion. In fact, Catholicism was set in motion by Constantine, a degenerate, and Protestantism was set in motion by Henry VIII, another degenerate. That's hard, but I stand by it as a teacher of history. I stand by the word degenerate as applied to those two men in relationship to the religion. But that's not the point I'm getting to.
No, I was just...
The main point that I'm getting to is that the assumption was that Christianity would hasten the decline of the Roman Empire. Would halt the decline of the Roman Empire. But it hurried the decline of the Roman Empire, because this religion did not fit the temperament of the Europeans then, does not fit that temperament now. They simply could not live by a religion as placid, as kind, as humane as this. And they had to establish power by violating it. But about 600 or thereabout, their management of the church had so disgraced the religion until the people in this area began to ask some serious questions again, and a camel driver, who later to emerge as the Prophet Muhammad, first asked for reform. Failing to get reform, he asked for the making of a new religion. And with the help of Zayd bin Harith and Bilal, two Ethiopians, he brought Islam into being. And Islam, as a military force, pushed the Europeans back into Europe, and they would not emerge until the 15th and the 16th century as a power threat to the rest of the world again.
Professor Ben, what was there in the African character that allowed this invasion process to take place?
I don't think we could say it's allow, because the point is this, that what had happened, the Greeks coming and the Romans coming into ancient Africa was the last phase of ancient Africa. We have to look at the fact that as early as 1675 BC, which would put the Africans in their 13th dynastic period, may I state that the period of time I'm speaking about now, there is no Adam and Eve. The Adam and Eve theory is introduced into the world by the Hebrews, or Haribu. The first of the Haribu, or Hebrews, is Abraham. He isn't born until that same 13th dynasty, meaning then there is no Judaism, thus there is no Christianity, thus there is no Islam. Yet the Africans along the Nile had already religion, the worship of the god Ptah, P-T-A-H. Subsequent to that, the worship of the god Amun-Ra, the worship of Amun-Ra's son Osiris, and so forth, and Osiris's son Horus. The fundamental laws of behavior, morality, of ethics, long before the 10 Commandments. These 10 Commandments coming from these laws, called the negative confessions. And now, in that 13th dynasty, for the first time a non-African people would come in there. Most of the major things that you have in Africa are already constructed. The major pyramids. What I am saying, before there was an Adam and Eve mentioned anyway, the pyramids that you see at Giza were already constructed. That's in the 4th dynasty. The pyramid of Saqqara, the step pyramid, was already constructed in the 3rd dynasty. Now, those people who were the first to come in as conquerors were Asians, not Europeans. They came in 1675, calling themselves Hyksos under the leadership of a man called Salatis. They were eventually forced out by the Thutmosis and others, Hatshepsut, etc., Thutmosis' daughter. The next thrust of Asian invaders, not people that was asked to come in with weaponry, they came in and under the Assyrians.
When?
That would be in 714. At the time when they came in, the Africans from Ethiopia was ruling Egypt, called the Ethiopians were ruling. Now, they came in as a result of, under the leadership of a man called Ashurbanipal. They were repulsed, these Asians from Assyria, repulsed. And then came another group of Asians, the Persians, now called Iranians. The Persians came in under Cambyses, who was replaced by Darius in 525. But the Persians were so bad in terms of their behavior to the Africans there in the Delta. All of this has happened in the Delta. They are not penetrated upwards in the southern part of Egypt, which is up. See? Down is north and up is south because of the terrain. Now, they were so willful, destroying everything they could find, because they didn't know what to do with billet. It wasn't their culture. The Africans then, for the first time, are going to get in trouble with cleavage. They